The galaxy is not merely vast, it is crushing. 1 billion worlds orbit beneath the shadow of the Imperium, and yet even the smallest flicker of thought can bring ruin. For in the mind lies a gate, a whispering fracture where the immaterium leaks into flesh. To be born a Psyker is to be both gift and curse, incarnate, a creature touched by forces no human frame was ever meant to endure. Some are chosen, their souls bound to sanctioned service. Others fail. And when a Psyker fails the Inquisition, the fall is not quiet, nor merciful. It is a descent into fire, blade, or worse into fates so brutal that even the silence of death would have been a kindness. These are not tales for comfort. They are warnings written in blood and ash across the history of mankind. The dark fate of Psykers who cannot endure is as much a ritual as it is a punishment. A reminder that in this eternal war there is no room for weakness. And yet, within that terror lies something deeper: questions of justice, survival, and the fragile thread of humanity itself. If the hidden paths of the Imperium, the whispered truths the High Lords do not dare speak aloud, and the shadows cast by the Inquisition itself call to you, then remain with us. Subscribe, share this chronicle with those who seek the same forbidden knowledge, and lend your voice so that these stories of the warp are not lost to silence. The first breath of life on a hive world is already a battle. Air does not come clean, but filtered through layers of ash and smoke, heavy with the residue of manufacturing chimneys, and the slow, steady rot of countless bodies crammed together in metal corridors. To be born here is to taste iron before milk, to hear the ceaseless thrum of machinery before the lullaby of a parent's voice. For most, this choking world is all they will ever know. Toil, hunger, the slow procession from cradle to coffin. But for the rare child whose mind strays where no mortal mind should wander, birth carries within it the seed of something far more dangerous. It begins with flickers, a cry at night that is too piercing, too sharp, rattling glass panes from their frames. A dream that is more than a dream, spilling over into waking life. A sudden convulsion that makes candles snuff themselves out, or makes vox speakers crackle with whispers and voices not their own. Parents pretend it is nothing. They pray. They cling to superstition, telling themselves the machine spirit is restless, or that the Omnissiah tests them. But fear cannot be disguised forever, for the human eye knows when it has seen something it should never have seen. The child, perhaps no more than 6 years of age, does not understand why his mother clutches the Aquila tighter to her chest whenever his eyes glow faintly in the dark. He does not grasp why his father begins to avoid looking at him directly, speaking instead with strained politeness, as though afraid even the sound of his son's name might invite catastrophe. He only feels the weight of difference pressing in. Children sense exile before they can name it, and this boy feels it with every whispered argument that drifts through thin hive walls at night. Every sudden silence when he enters the room, on the day it becomes undeniable. There is no thunderclap, no celestial trumpet, merely a moment of frustration. The boy reaches for a toyno, more than a dented scrap of plasteel, with crude wheels, and finds his sister has hidden it. Anger boils up, a child's petty rage. Yet instead of shouting, the room itself responds. The toy hurtles across the chamber without his touch, slamming into the wall with such force that the rivets crack loose. His sister screams. His mother drops her prayer beads, scrambling backward as though her son has become something monstrous. His father freezes, pale as ash, lips trembling with prayers he cannot force into sound. The silence that follows is worse than any scream. From that moment, the boy ceases to be simply a child. He is marked. Neighbors whisper of strange lights leaking from under the door at night. Local priests, those minor ministers of the ecclesiarchy who patrol the lower hablocks, begin to watch the family more closely. They ask questions that sound innocent. Has the boy been sleeping well? Does he hear voices? Does he complain of headaches? But each word carries the edge of suspicion, and the parents, trapped in their own fear, begin to realize they are less guardians than jailers, their son's future slipping from their hands with every passing day. The boy himself feels the change not in the form of punishment, but in absence. His friends stop inviting him to scavenge for scrap in the alleys. His sister avoids eye contact, as though afraid his gaze alone might draw her into some unseen abyss. His father no longer teaches him to mend pipes or hammer rivets. He becomes a ghost within his own family, loved but feared, present but already half condemned. Nightmares come, as they always do. Sometimes he dreams of impossible palaces carved from bone, their windows looking out into oceans of screaming faces. Sometimes he floats weightless through corridors of light, only to wake clawing at his skin as though insects crawl beneath it. Once, he wakes to find his room filled with a faint frost, though the air around the hive burns hot. Another time, his pillow smolders, with smoke though no flame touches it. Each sign deepens the chasm between him and those who birthed him. Rumors grow. In the underhive, rumor is currency sharper than any coin. One day the whispers reach ears they should not. The arrival of the Inquisition is never heralded by fanfare. It comes quietly, like rot spreading under the skin. A rosette flashes beneath a cloak. A data slate changes hands. Men and women who were ordinary one day vanish the next, conscripted into service or silenced forever. And in that suffocating environment, the shadow of the Inquisition descends upon the boy's family. Two black-armored figures appear at the Hab's door, their helms faceless, vox grills crackling with cold authority. They bear no words of comfort, no pretense of choice. Behind them, robed scribes with auspex devices sweep the room. They're chanting a low hum that makes the boy's teeth ache. His mother begs, her voice breaking as she clutches her child to her chest. His father bows, forehead pressed against rusted flooring, offering obedience and silence in equal measure. None of it matters. The boy is pulled away, his screams echoing through the narrow corridor as neighbors shut their doors. Unwilling to be seen watching, he is not killed. Not yet. Instead, he is placed in chains far too heavy for his small frame, his wrists locked in manacles that thrum faintly with suppressive wards. He feels the constant buzzing at the edge of his skull, like bees crawling inside his brain. Each time he thinks of resisting, a jolt of invisible pain courses through his nerves, forcing obedience before he even understands the command. The world beyond his family's threshold is larger than he imagined, yet colder, as the Inquisition's retinue drags him through metal streets. He sees the way crowds part, the way even hardened enforcers avert their gaze. He realizes then that he is not merely feared, he is despised. The mark of the Psyker is more than curse, it is contagion. To look upon him is to be reminded of the warp itself, that seething sea of madness, pressing forever against reality. He is an intrusion, a living flaw in the armor of mankind. The last thing he sees of his parents is not their faces, but their backs. They do not chase, do not shout. They kneel, heads bowed, hands clutching their Achilles, as if hoping faith might wash the shame away. He does not hate them for it. He is too young to name the feeling that grows inside him, something deeper than loneliness, sharper than betrayal. Perhaps it is the first seed of despair, locked within the transport. Surrounded by voxims that chant prayers of containment, the boy begins to understand. Childhood has ended, not with a natural passage into adulthood, but with a violent severing. His fate is no longer his own. He belongs to the Inquisition, to the black ships that wait like silent predators above the planet. He does not know where he is going, only that he will never return. Outside, the hive continues its endless labor, uncaring. Thousands live and die in the hours it takes the transport to climb toward orbit. Their lives will never intersect with his again. And yet his small presence will ripple outward into chains, into trials, into sacrifice. The galaxy has a way of consuming those it marks, and for Psykers, The consumption begins at the moment of awakening. The spark has been lit, and sparks, when left unchecked, do not merely fade. They burn, they ignite, they consume until nothing remains but ash. For the boy, the gift he never wanted is no gift at all. It is a sentence, and as the void ship looms larger in the heavens, its colossal bulk swallowing the stars, the truth settles into his bones with the weight of inevitability. The Inquisition does not forget. The Inquisition does not forgive. The child is no longer a son, nor a brother, nor even a citizen of the Imperium. He is a resource to be tested, broken, or destroyed. And the galaxy is vast enough to ensure that his screams, when they come, will vanish unheard into its endless night. And so begins the journey that all Psykers fear, the first step into the abyss that awaits those who fail. The transport shuttle shudders as it locks into the docking clamps of the vessel waiting above the hive world. Through a narrow slit of reinforced glass, the boy glimpses its bulk for the first time. The black ship does not gleam with imperial pride, nor does it carry the ornamented beauty of a battleship blessed by the Mechanicus. It is a floating tomb, a colossal silhouette of black iron etched with wards and sigils, whose meanings elude him yet make his skin crawl. Its surface is scarred and charred, as if it has passed through fire 1,000 times and emerged carrying the memory of every soul consumed within. It waits in silence, engines purring like a predator at rest. And even from orbit, it feels less like a ship than a judgment pronounced upon the world below. The boy is hauled from his restraints and forced through narrow passages that stink of oil and burnt ozone. Chains rattle with each step. The guards who accompany him wear expressions carved from stone, their faces hidden behind blank helmets, their movements precise as automata. There are no words of comfort, no attempts to soften the truth. He is one of many, a line of shackled figures stretching down the corridor, each child or adult bearing the same haunted look. Some weep, some mutter incoherently to themselves. Others shuffle forward, with vacant eyes, as though their souls already abandoned them. Crossing the threshold into the black ship feels like stepping into a void from which there is no return. The air changes, heavy and metallic, recycled until it tastes stale on the tongue. Every breath carries the faint temps of rust and disinfectant, as if the very walls bleed. The lights flicker dimly, leaving shadows that crawl across the bulkheads. The sound of boots and chains echo endlessly, bouncing down corridors until the boy cannot tell if it is his own noise or some ghostly procession ahead. They are led into a vast chamber. Rows of iron cages stacked one atop the other like a grotesque hive within a hive. The cages hold Psykers from across the sector, children clutching threadbare dolls, old men muttering half-remembered prayers, young women with hollow cheeks and eyes red from endless tears. The sheer number overwhelms him. He had thought himself alone, cursed beyond measure, but now he sees the truth. The Imperium harvests Psykers like crops. They are not rare wonders, but expendable fuel for an empire teetering on the edge of ruin. The cage door slams shut behind him. The iron bars are cold, their surface etched with runes that thrum faintly against his skin when he brushes too close. Suppression fields hum overhead, dulling the edge of thought, dragging him down into a fog that makes it difficult to focus. He feels his mind pressing outward instinctively, searching for escape, only to recoil as pain lances through his skull. The cage is not merely a prison. It is a muzzle fitted to his very soul. Time loses meaning aboard the black ship. There are no windows, no stars to mark the passage of night or day. Meals arrive as tasteless nutrient gruel shoved through slits in the bars. The air grows hotter with each passing hour as bodies sweat and rot in close confinement. The cries of the others never cease, sometimes loud with panic, sometimes low and broken, sometimes drowned out by the rhythmic thud of fists against iron. Sleep brings no comfort, only nightmares magnified by the oppressive psychic bleed of so many cursed minds trapped together. The boy learns quickly that survival requires silence. Those who scream too loudly are dragged from their cages by gaunt figures in black robes, their faces hidden beneath hoods. They vanish through doors that hissed shut behind them, and none return. Sometimes, hours later, the faint stench of burning flesh drifts through the ventilation shafts. The message is clear: obedience buys you another day. Defiance brings only oblivion. Yet even obedience cannot guard against the other danger, the psychic resonance of thousands of Psykers crammed into one vessel. Whispers crawl through the air, threads of thought leaking despite suppression wards. A woman in the cage beside him sobs in silence. Yet, in the boy's skull, he hears her voice begging, pleading with a husband left behind. Across the corridor, a man rocks back and forth, his lips still, yet his thoughts invade like knives, visions of blood, of teeth gnashing, of beasts that hunt in eternal darkness. The boy clamps his hands over his ears, though it does nothing. The voices are not sound but intrusion, echoes of the warp seeping into his mind. He sees others unravel beneath the weight. A child not much older than himself begins to convulse, frothing at the mouth as invisible hands twist his limbs at grotesque angles. The guards arrive too late. His body collapses into ash, consumed by a psychic flare that leaves scorch marks etched into the iron. The others watch in silence, too afraid to speak. His remains are swept away, as if he never existed. Despite the horror, there is ritual. Each day black-robed attendants march through the aisles, chanting prayers of containment, their censers spilling acrid smoke that makes eyes water and throats burn. They sprinkle blessed oils upon the cages, muttering litanies that brand every soul inside as both danger and sacrifice. The boy realizes the attendants are not here for comfort or even vigilance. They are here to remind the captives of what they are: abominations, weapons that cannot be trusted, souls to be consumed in the service of mankind. Weeks blur together. Some prisoners attempt to count the meals to keep track of time, but give up when their minds falter under the weight of monotony. Disease spreads easily. Lice infest matted hair. Coughs rattle lungs until silence falls and bodies grow cold. The corpses are dragged out and replaced swiftly, as though death is no more remarkable than spilled water. For every 10 who perish, another 10 wait, chained in some other hold. Their numbers endless, their value only in how long they can endure. The boy clings to life, though he does not know why. Perhaps instinct drives him, or perhaps some buried hope whispers that endurance will grant escape. He carves lines into the iron floor with his fingernails until they bleed, a desperate tally no one else will ever read. He learns to sleep in bursts, waking before the nightmares consume him entirely. He learns to keep his thoughts tight, folded inward, lest the whispers latch onto them and twist them into weapons. In this floating tomb, survival is not strength. It is stubbornness occasionally. The ship shudders as it enters or leaves the warp. When it does, the entire hold screams as one. Thousands of voices crying out against the psychic pressure that slams into them like a tidal wave. The suppression fields strain, cracking under the weight. And for moments at a time, the prisoners glimpse the true face of the Imperium. Shapes press against the barriers, vast and formless, eyes blooming and fading in endless succession. The boy feels his sanity quiver like glass, about to break, yet somehow the wards hold. The ship endures, but each time it emerges back into real space, more prisoners lie dead, their minds shattered beyond repair. Through it all, the boy learns one truth: the black ships do not transport Psykers, they consume them. Every scream, every corpse, every fading soul is fuel for the machine of survival. The Imperium does not waste time comforting its cursed children. It locks them in cages and drags them across the stars, each passing day stripping away another layer of humanity until nothing remains but the raw potential to be burned upon. Terra's altar, and Terra waits. The boy does not know what trial lies ahead, but he feels its shadow pressing closer with each system they pass. The whispers of other captives speak of the Golden Throne, of the Emperor's demand for sacrifice, of the rare few who will emerge sanctioned, branded, and bound in chains of service. Yet most will not survive the journey, let alone the trial. The black ships are not vessels of salvation. They are purgatories adrift in an endless night. When the ship finally nears its destination, the air grows colder, the rituals more frequent. Guards march with sharper precision, and the attendants chant longer litanies, as though preparing the souls for slaughter. The boy feels it in his bones, the inevitability of what comes next. The journey is ending, but the true ordeal is only beginning. The black ship plunges onward, toward Terra, and every chained soul aboard knows that their fate is already written in fire. The first sight of Terra is not of beauty, but of ruin. From orbit, the boy glimpses a world encased in smog, its surface hidden beneath sprawling hive cities so vast they resemble continents of iron. The skies are scarred with orbital plates and defense stations, an iron shroud girdling the home of mankind's emperor. What light breaks through, the haze burns sickly, filtered through centuries of pollution and war. To step onto Terra is not to step onto a cradle of civilization, but into the choking heart of a dying god's empire. And for Psykers, it is to arrive at the threshold of judgment, dragged from the holds of the black ship. The boy and thousands like him are herded down cavernous disembarkation halls, where the air tastes of ash and incense. The clang of boots echoes endlessly, drowning out the low murmur of terrified voices. Icons of the Imperial Aquila hang overhead, their wings spread wide in mock embrace, each plated in gold that glitters dimly in the half-light. The weight of history crushes the air. Every step is a reminder that countless millions before them walked this same path, and most were never seen again. The procession leads to the testing chamber's vast halls, carved into the bedrock of Terra itself. Here the walls are not plain iron, but covered in endless inscriptions of prayer, each letter etched by the hands of penitents whose bones are long since dust. The boy feels the weight of the words pressing down on him, as if even stone itself condemns him before his trial begins. At the far end, high balconies rise where silent figures in robes of crimson and black watch from above. Some are scribes, recording each death with dutiful indifference. Others are inquisitors, their eyes sharp as blades, searching for any flicker of strength or corruption. Their silence is the loudest sound of all. The trials begin without ceremony. Names are read from data slates, each syllable echoing like a death knell. Prisoners are dragged forward one by one, stripped of dignity, stripped of hope. The boy watches as a young woman is shoved into the center of the chamber. She is ordered to conjure flame, to prove her strength. Her hands tremble as sparks dance between her fingers. For a heartbeat, it seems, she may succeed. Then the sparks spiral out of control, becoming a roaring inferno that engulfs her. Her screams tear the air before silence falls, and her ashes scatter across the stone floor. The scribes write her name in neat strokes, followed by a single word, failed. Another is brought forward, an old man whose eyes are clouded but whose mind flares brightly with unnatural power. He is given a relic, a staff crowned with a blazing sigil, in order to channel his gift into it. He does, and the staff glows with blinding light. But in that brilliance, shadows writhe. From the corners of the chamber, unseen shapes stir, whispering with voices that do not belong to mankind. The man collapses, convulsing as blood pours from his eyes. Guards execute him swiftly with a bolt round to the skull, ending the corruption before it can spread. His body is dragged away, leaving only a smear of crimson on the stone. Another failure, another offering. The boy waits in silence, heart pounding as trial after trial unfolds before him. Some are burned alive, others torn apart by psychic backlash. Some vanish altogether, their souls ripped screaming into the warp. And always, the scribes continue their work, recording each failure with mechanical indifference. their pens scratching like the claws of carrion birds. When his turn comes, he is pushed forward into the center. Chains clatter as he stumbles, the eyes of hundreds burning into him from above. An inquisitor's voice rings out, calm and sharp. "Show us." No further explanation. No mercy, just command. The boy closes his eyes, reaching inward. For a moment he feels nothing but the weight of fear, the certainty that failure will mean death. But beneath that fear lies the spark, the same unwanted flame that tore his family apart, that drew the Inquisition to his door. He lets it rise. A faint glow blossoms around him, soft at first, then sharper, sparks leaping from his fingertips. He hears murmurs from the balconies, though he cannot tell if they are approval or suspicion. His heart races as the sparks form shapes-teeny arcs of light that twist like birds in flight. For a moment, beauty pierces the chamber's cruelty. Then the pain comes. Words ignite around him, suppressing fields straining against his power. His head feels as if it is splitting in two, his vision burning white. He screams, but does not stop. The light flares brighter, filling the chamber until even the scribes shield their eyes. At last, the Inquisitor raises a hand. The fields snap, slamming him to the floor. His power gutters out like a candle in a storm. He lies there, gasping, his skin blistered, his body trembling. But he is alive. Whispers ripple through the chamber. His name is marked, not with the word failed, but with another, sanctioned pending. He does not understand it, only that it means he has not yet been condemned. Around him, the trials continue. He watches as others falter and fall, each death feeding the chamber's grim rhythm. The screams become background noise, no different than the hum of suppression fields. The boy realizes then that survival is not triumph. It is merely endurance, the ability to last longer than the one beside you. For every handful marked as sanctioned, 100 are erased, their ashes swept into urns, their names reduced to numbers in endless ledgers. Days blur together, filled with trial after trial. The boy is subjected to tests of will, of control, of resistance against horrors whispered from the warp itself. At times he feels himself unraveling, his sanity fraying like old cloth. Yet somehow he clings on, perhaps by instinct, perhaps by accident, or perhaps the Inquisitors see some flicker of usefulness in him that he himself cannot yet see. The sanctioned few are separated from the masses. They are not free chains, remain, collars hum. Guards shadow their every step, but they are alive, and that alone sets them apart. The boy joins their ranks, his body broken, his mind scarred, but still breathing. He looks back at the chamber where so many were consumed and feels a hollowness he cannot name. Survivors are not heroes. They are simply the ones who have not yet been chosen for sacrifice. For the rest, the fate is final. The unsanctioned are marched away in long lines toward chambers where their screams echo louder than any hymn. Rumors spread of where they go into the vaults beneath the golden throne, their souls burned as fuel to keep the Astronomicon alight. The boy does not know if the rumors are true, but he believes them. The scale of death is too vast, the necessity too undeniable. Humanity survives because Psykers die. That is the order. That is the sacred cruelty upon which the Imperium rests. And in the silence after the last name is called, when the chambers lie littered with ash and blood, the survivors are left to ponder what kind of victory it is to remain. The boy feels the chains tighten on his wrists as he is led away with the sanctioned few. His steps echo against the stone, carrying him deeper into Terra's labyrinthian halls. Ahead lies training, indoctrination, service, and perhaps a fate worse than death. He does not know. He only knows that he has been spared, and that in the Imperium of Man, sparing is never mercy. It is simply the promise of more suffering yet to come. The doors slam shut behind them, sealing away the screams. The trials have ended, but the judgment has only begun. The sanctioned few are herded into narrower corridors, their chains rattling in rhythmic echoes as they are marched deeper into the bowels of Terra. The air grows colder, thinner, and thick, with the scent of incense, so strong it clings to the lungs like ash. The boy feels each breath sting his throat, as though the very atmosphere is laced with judgment. Gone are the vast echoing trial chambers. Now the walls close in, lined with bronze reliefs of the Emperor's stern visage, his eyes following every faltering step. To pass beneath that gaze is to feel one's sins weighed anew. At last, they arrive at a hall far quieter than those before, its silence so profound that even the clatter of boots seems blasphemous. Tall doors wrought of black steel groan open, revealing a chamber half in shadow. The prisoners are thrust inside. No instructions are given, no guards follow. The door seals shut with a hiss. Only then does the boy realize the true trial has begun, not of flame or power, but of silence, suspicion, and fear. The chamber is empty, save for a single chair placed at its center, illuminated by a lone shaft of pale light. The rest of the space is swallowed in gloom, the darkness shifting subtly as if something unseen lingers just beyond the reach of vision. One by one, names are called again. One by one, the sanctioned Psykers are dragged to that chair. The boy waits his turn, each moment stretched taut by the cries and whispers that seeped from the chamber. Some emerge weeping, their eyes hollow, as though pieces of their minds had been carved away. Others do not emerge at all, their absence explained only by the faint metallic temps of blood that lingers in the air afterward. The Inquisition's gaze is not merely seen, it is endured, survived, if survival is even the right word. When his name is spoken, it is like a knife sliding between his ribs. He is pulled forward, his chains released, and shoved into the chair. The metal is cold against his back, the restraints biting into his wrists and ankles. Then the light grows brighter, forcing his eyes open, searing his vision. He squints, but there is nowhere to hide. Beyond the glare, shadows stir. He senses presences, watching, weighing, dissecting him without touch. A voice cuts through the silence, calm, measured, yet filled with a weight that crushes more than any shout. You have survived the trials of sanction. But survival is not proof. Survival is not loyalty. Tell us why, should you be spared? The boy tries to answer, but the words falter on his tongue. Why should he be spared? He does not know. He has no grand vision of serving the Imperium, no oath upon his lips. He speaks only truth, that he does not wish to die, that he has nothing else but the spark within him. The words sound pitiful, but they are all he has. The silence that follows is suffocating. Then comes another question, sharper, colder. What do you see when you close your eyes at night? Speak. He hesitates. To admit the visions that plague him, the fractured whispers, the shadows of things that should not exist, is to risk immediate condemnation. Yet to lie feels impossible, for he senses the weight of the Inquisitor's mind pressing against his own, stripping away half-formed thoughts, peeling truth from fear. He speaks of the shadows, of the voices, of the fleeting glimpses of a fire that consumes worlds. His voice trembles, but he does not stop. There is movement in the darkness. The unseen watchers murmur among themselves. He cannot tell if his honesty has damned him or spared him. Then another voice, different from the first, this one lower-edged with steel. And if commanded to burn 1,000 souls in his name, would you obey? The boy swallows hard. His instinct is to recoil, to deny, to cling to the tatters of the humanity he once knew. Yet he feels the crushing weight of their expectation, the knowledge that mercy is not found here, only judgment. He answers, barely above a whisper, if it is his will. The silence stretches again. At last, a single word is spoken. Enough. The light fades, the restraints unfasten, and unseen hands drag him from the chair. He is tossed back into the waiting chamber, shaking, his skin clammy with sweat. The interrogations continue. Each sanctioned psyker is dissected, their words weighed against suspicion, their minds probed until madness trembles at the edge of reason. The Inquisition does not seek truth, they seek certainty, loyalty, the absence of rebellion. And where certainty is absent, silence decides. Days blur into nights, though time holds no meaning in the windowless depths. Meals come irregularly, tasteless gruel shoved into trembling hands. Sleep is broken by the sound of doors hissing open, names being called, footsteps fading into the chamber beyond. Some return, others vanish. The sanctioned few grow fewer still. The boy learns not to speak, not to comfort, not to hope. The walls themselves seem to listen, and every word may be a noose at times. Visions pierce the monotony, flashes of light that sear his skull, whispers threading through his dreams. He cannot tell if they come from the warp or from the Inquisitors themselves, testing the boundaries of his mind. He wakes with blood trickling from his nose, his head pounding, but dares not cry out. To show weakness is to invite removal. He begins to sense patterns in the Watchers. Their silence is never uniform. Sometimes the questions bite with fury, sometimes they drift into riddles, dreams, illusions that leave him gasping. He realizes the interrogations are not only about loyalty, but about shaping him, breaking him down, seeing whether he bends or shatters. One night or what passes for night, he is summoned again. This time the chamber is different. The light is dimmer, the shadows thicker. A figure steps into view for the first time, shrouded in a robe of deepest crimson, a golden rosette glinting faintly at their chest. The boy's breath catches. He has heard whispers of that symbol. The inquisitorial rosette. The Inquisitor regards him with eyes like burning coals. No words are spoken at first. The silence itself is interrogation. Then, softly, the Inquisitor says, "You are not judged for what you are. You are judged for what you may become. Do you understand?" The boy nods, though he barely grasps the meaning. The Inquisitor leans closer, and in that moment, the boy feels utterly naked, as though every thought, every memory, every secret he has ever carried lies exposed. He trembles, certain that the Inquisitor sees the fear, the doubt, the unspoken longing to be free. Yet, the gaze does not waver. "You will serve," the Inquisitor says at last, "or you will burn. Remember this." The boy is released once more, cast back into the chamber of survivors. His legs shake, his mind whirls, but something in him has shifted. The Inquisition has seen him, not just as a prisoner, not just as a psyker, but as something they may yet mold or destroy. From this moment onward, he is no longer judged solely by his gift. He is judged by every breath, every thought, every flicker of loyalty, and always, always, the watchful eyes remain. The sanctioned few who endure these trials do not emerge whole. They emerge, broken, remade, their souls scarred deeper than any wound of flesh. Some whisper to themselves constantly, others stare blankly, as though their minds have been scraped clean. Yet the Inquisition accepts them. 4 broken tools are still tools, and sometimes the sharpest blade is one honed by suffering. The boy sits among them, chains heavy on his wrists, the memory of the Inquisitor's gaze seared into his bones. He knows now that survival is no longer enough. Every step forward must be weighed, every word measured, for in the Imperium of Man, a thought unguarded can be a death sentence. And in the quiet that follows, when the chamber lies still, he feels the certainty sink into him like a blade. He is not free. He will never be free. He is watched, always watched, and the silence of the Inquisition is sharper than any blade. Failure before the Inquisition is not sudden, nor is it merciful. It unfurls slowly, like a wound that will not close, until the body of the condemned is simply carried into one of many chambers where the Imperium stores its fear. The boy learns this truth not through rumor, but through the silences that follow each vanished name, he has seen the sanctioned few grow fewer still. Their absence explained not by words, but by the lingering smoke that curls through vents, by the faint iron temps of blood smeared into the cracks of the floor. The Inquisition does not announce its sentences, it enacts them, and the walls of terror whisper the verdicts in echo and stain. The most visible form of failure comes swiftest, the crack of a bolt shell tearing through silence like a hymn to finality. Those judged unworthy are hauled into narrow rooms, their wrists bound, their eyes forced open by steel clamps so they might stare at the gilded aquila that adorns the wall opposite. No words are spoken, no explanations are given. The roar of the bolt pistol fills the air, sharp and final, shattering skull and spilling crimson across sanctified steel. The chamber is cleaned, the stain scrubbed, and another psyker is led in moments later, as though nothing has transpired. The machinery of judgment never halts, never hesitates. The Emperor's will is executed with mechanical precision. Others are chosen for rites, less immediate. The boy once glimpses a line of figures, stripped bare, their heads shorn, their lips sewn shut with coarse black thread. They are herded into a great chamber lined with braziers of promethium. The priests chant litanies older than empires, as the condemned are lashed to iron poles. The air thickens with incense, until the smoke stings the eyes, and then the flames are lit. Flesh burns slowly, peeling back in ribbons, as the condemned writhe, unable to scream. The smell is unforgettable, a stench of seared meat that coats the tongue and lingers in the nostrils long after the chamber is sealed again. The immolation is not for death alone, it is for spectacle, a warning etched into memory. To witness it is to understand that failure is not merely punished, it is purified. Yet the cruelest fate of all does not end in death, but in hollow continuation. Those deemed neither loyal enough to serve, nor dangerous enough to execute, are reshaped. The boy first encounters this fate when he hears a clattering shuffle echoing down a corridor, a sound of metal scraping stone. Around the corner lumbers a figure half human, half machine. Its eyes are gone, replaced by dull lenses that whir faintly as they focus. Its mouth is sealed, vox grills jutting where lips once were, emitting faint static as though fragments of its voice remain trapped in circuits. Tubes and pistons protrude from pallid flesh, pumping fluids that keep the husk alive. It carries heavy crates with tireless strength, its gait unsteady but its obedience absolute. ASERVITOR. The realization strikes like cold iron. These are the failures who were not granted the mercy of death. Their memories have been cut away, their wills excised by arcane surgery. What remains is a body stripped of self, condemned to endless labor. Some still carry faint psychic residue, their sparks smothered but never extinguished, flickering through their husks in useless spasms. Their hands twitch without command, their heads jerk as if recalling a memory they can no longer hold. The boy cannot decide which fate is crueler, the burning pyre or the hollow eternity of servitude. He sees more of them in the manufactorum halls beneath Terra, where endless lines of servitors toil at forges and presses, stamping weapons for wars they will never understand. Their chains clatter in unison as they heave molten metal, their flesh blistered but ignored. Overseers and hoods move among them, litanies of control flowing from vox. The servitors do not look up. They do not speak. They simply endure. Once, the boy swears he sees recognition in the eyes of one, a glimmer of the human that once lived beneath the wires and steel. It vanishes an instant later, replaced by the dull obedience of the machine. Not all transformations are physical. Some failures are condemned to psychic oblivion, their minds deliberately shattered and poured into containment devices. He hears of soul-bound husks sealed into astropathic engines, their voices chained forever to the These are not the chosen choir who serve with glory. These are the broken, the unstable, forced into roles where their lives are burned away like candles left in the wind. They flicker and gutter quickly, consumed in silence, their sacrifice unnamed, unremembered. What unnerves the boy most is how ordinary it all becomes. The first bolt shell horrified him. The first immolation left him retching for hours. The first servitor made him weep into his chains, yet repetition breeds numbness. Soon he learns to avert his eyes, to silence his thoughts, to pass another husk or pyre without faltering. Survival requires indifference, and the Inquisition knows this. Their punishments are not merely retribution, they are instruction. Every execution is a reminder that loyalty is demanded without hesitation. Every immolation is a sermon that suffering is holy. Every servitor is a warning that identity itself is expendable. And yet, within him, a seed of terror grows, not only fear of death, but fear of becoming hollow. He dreams of waking with tubes in his veins, of hearing his own voice trapped in static. He dreams of carrying loads until his back cracks and his mind screams, but no words emerge. The Inquisition kills the weak swiftly. It condemns the unfaithful to flame, but to the uncertain, to those who cannot wholly bend, it offers eternity in chains. The sanctioned few whisper of these fates in the darkness when the guards are gone. Their voices tremble as they recount the gallery of horrors. One speaks of seeing her brother turned into a servitor before her eyes, his pleas silenced as the corrosions drilled into his skull. Another mutters of chambers filled with ash, walls blackened from centuries of burning. The boy listens, silent, and each tale burrows deeper into his heart. He knows he cannot fail. To fail is to vanish, body or soul, into the Emperor's machinery. Still, he cannot help but wonder if failure is inevitable. The trials demand perfection. The Inquisition demands loyalty unbroken, obedience without hesitation, faith without doubt. Who among them can meet such standards forever? Each thought feels like a spark in dry tinder, dangerous if noticed. He buries them deep, but they gnaw at him nonetheless. One day, as he passes through the chamber of silence where sentences are carried out, he sees a sight that freezes his breath. On a steel slab lies the husk of a boy no older than himself. He recognizes the scar across the cheek, the curve of the jaw. This was one of the sanctioned, someone who endured the trials, someone who shared his rations. Now the skull is shaved, wires sunk into bone, eyes replaced by glass. Already the surgeons have cut deep, stripping away what little humanity remained. The husk jerks once, spasmodic, before stilling into mechanical rhythm, a friend, erased. The boy does not speak. He does not cry. He simply stares until a guard strikes him across the back, forcing him onward. But something inside him dies in that moment, something more fragile than flesh. Hope itself grows silent. Failure before the Inquisition is not singular. It is manifold, infinite in cruelty. A bolt shell, a pyre, a servitor's husk. Each fate a reminder that to be born with the gift is to be born into a narrow corridor where every step risks the abyss. The boy walks this corridor still, his chains heavy, his heart cold, knowing that the Inquisition watches always, and in the quiet hours, when even fear has no voice, he wonders which fate will claim him if he falters. The procession begins at dawn. Though Terra's sun does not break the ash-choked skies, the air is already thick with incense. Coils of it rising from censers swung by hooded priests, who chant in voices that blur with the tolling of distant bells. The condemned march in silence, bound in chains so heavy they drag across the stone and spark with each faltering step. There is no mistaking where the line leads. The scent of smoke hangs in the distance, mingled with something fouler, something human. The boy breathes it in and feels his stomach twist, for it is not the scent of wood that reaches him, it is flesh, charred and clinging to the air like an accusation. The pyres await in the great plaza before the Basilica of the Emperor's name, a place vast enough to hold tens of thousands. The steps of the basilica rise behind the platform like a mountain of stone, each tier carved with the aquila and studded with statues of martyrs whose features have long since blackened with soot. Before it, the stage is set. Iron stakes rise in perfect rows, already blackened from use, their bases surrounded by pits where promethium burns with a low, hungry flame. Around them stand the crowds, citizens summoned not by choice but by duty. Workers, soldiers, petitioners, all herded into place by the arbitrators who line the square with shockmalls at the ready. To be absent from this ritual is to be suspected of sympathy with the witch. And sympathy is a word that ends in ash. The condemned are dragged forward, each forced to their knees before the iron stakes. Their heads are shaved, their mouths gagged with cords so no last words may poison the air. Some struggle, thrashing until the guards beat them down with rifle butts. Others tremble silently, their eyes darting to the crowds as if begging for recognition, for mercy. But the crowd does not move. They watch, grim and quiet, their faces as lifeless as the stone around them. The ritual is not for the condemned. It is for the living, and the living understand that to flinch is to invite suspicion. The boy stands among them, pressed shoulder to shoulder with strangers, his wrists still bound. Though not yet chosen for the pyre, he is made to watch. All sanctioned psychers are. It is part of their indoctrination, part of their unending reminder of what waits should they falter. His throat is dry, his hands clammy, and his mind burns with the unspoken truth. This is not justice. This is theater. The priests begin their chant, voices rising in cadence with the drums that thunder from the basilica steps. By his light are we purged, by his will are we cleansed, by his flame are the wicked made pure. The words roll over the plaza in waves, repeated by the crowd until the sound becomes a wall. The condemned are lashed to the stakes, their chains bolted tight, their bodies smeared with oils that glisten in the light of the torches. Then the first pyre is lit, a torch touches the base, and in an instant, the promethium roars to life, flames racing up the stake, wrapping the body in fire. The muffled scream bursts through the gag, shrill and agonized, before fading to a choked gurgle. The crowd does not avert their gaze. They chant louder, drowning the sound of burning flesh. The boy clamps his teeth shut until his jaw aches, for he feels the scream echo inside his skull as if it were his own. One after another, the pyres ignite. Flames bloom like flowers in the square, their heat rolling out in waves that sear the skin of those nearest. Smoke thickens, dark and acrid, stinging the eyes, coating the tongue. The condemned writhe, their bodies twisting against restraints that will not yield, their eyes wide and glistening with terror. Some fall silent quickly, their lungs consumed. Others thrash longer, their strength burning away, only as their flesh blackens and splits. The boy tastes bile, rising in his throat but swallows it down. To vomit is to be noticed. To be noticed is to be questioned. The priests continue their hymn, and now the crowd joins in earnest. The words become deafening, a tide of voices raised not in grief, but in exultation. To burn is to be redeemed, they cry. To burn is to be cleansed. The boy understands now that the spectacle is not meant to horrify, but to assure. Each pyre is a sermon, each scream a hymn, proof that the emperor's will is unyielding and his justice inescapable. The people take comfort in it, finding strength in the sight of fire, consuming what they fear. For to see the witch burn is to believe, if only for a moment, that the darkness is held at bay. Yet beneath the chants, beneath the roar of fire, the boy feels something else apulse, a ripple of psychic anguish. The dying Psykers burn not only in flesh but in soul, their gifts flaring uncontrolled as they perish. Shadows writhe at the edges of sight, whispers coil through the smoke. For a heartbeat, he thinks he sees shapes in the fire, figures clawing outward, hungry and vast. The priests chant louder, striking bells and cymbals to drown the unseen. The crowd roars, stamping feet and clapping hands. The boy squeezes his eyes shut, for he knows that to admit what he has seen would condemn him to the same stake. When the flames finally gutter out, only charred husks remain, blackened skeletons lashed upright in grotesque poses. Ash drifts across the square, clinging to skin, hair, lips. Children clutch their mothers, soldiers bow their heads, workers murmur prayers. The priests proclaim the ritual complete, their voices hoarse yet triumphant, and the crowd disperses, silent now, returning to their lives as though the pyres were no more than another day's labor. But the boy does not forget. He cannot. The smell lingers in his nostrils, the heat in his skin, the visions in his mind. He knows now that the pyres are not only punishment, they are warning. They are the line drawn in flame, a reminder that redemption lies not in mercy, but in obliteration. That night, as he lies on the cold stone of his cell, he dreams of fire. He dreams of standing at the stake, gagged and bound. As the torches approach, he feels the heat rise, the skin blister, the lungs collapse, and worst of all, he feels his gift burst free in that instant, uncontrolled, a beacon flaring into the warp. He wakes with a scream muffled into his hand, sweat soaking his skin, the taste of smoke still thick in his mouth. He understands now the truth that the Inquisition never speaks but always teaches. To be a Psyker is to stand always at the edge of the pyre. Every failure, every doubt, every hesitation draws one step closer to flame. And when the fire comes, it will not only consume flesh, it will consume memory, identity, hope itself, leaving only ash to scatter on the wind. In the morning, the bells toll again. Another procession begins. Another crowd gathers. The cycle repeats. The boy watches, silent, his heart hardened and hollow, for he knows the pyres of redemption will never cease. They burn eternally, a theater of fire in which humanity reassures itself that the witch can be destroyed. And he wonders, as he watches the flames rise once more, how many more pyres it will take before his own name is called. There are pyres, and there are blades, and there are chambers of quiet execution. These are the endings that the Imperium shows to the masses. The sanctioned spectacles of cleansing where a life flares and is gone. But not every fate is so simple, and not every Psyker who falters before the Inquisition is permitted the mercy of ash. Some are taken elsewhere. Lead not toward the Emperor's light, but down into depths where even the prayers of a chapel cannot reach. Beneath fortress monasteries, beneath the bastions of the Ordos, there are vaults without windows or names, where the condemned breathe in silence and rot in secret. No one speaks openly of them, for to acknowledge their existence is to admit that the Emperor's servants do not always grant the release of flame. Yet whispers remain, and they carry the same chill as the void. It begins with the march downward. Shackled Psykers are led not to the execution halls, but into tunnels that seem endless, lit only by the cold glare of lumen strips. Their guards do not speak, and when the prisoners falter, shock prods remind them that hesitation is not permitted. The air grows heavy, tinged with oils, and the musk of ancient stone. Voxims echo faintly from distant chapels above, but the sound thins until only silence remains. It is said that even servitors avoid lingering in these levels, as if some instinct within their mutilated minds recoils from what dwells deeper still. Only the Inquisition, and those enslaved to their purposes, walk here freely. Within the vaults themselves, the atmosphere is more oppressive than any prison cell. Each chamber is cut from rockcrete and reinforced with wards scored in the blood of martyrs. Chains are set not into walls, but into the very ceilings, suspending prisoners like grotesque offerings to gods that do not exist. Here, Psykers do not die quickly. They are hooked to engines of restraint, their minds probed by interrogators who wield both sorcery and steel. Data slates are filled with their half-coherent mutterings, each fragment of babble dissected for hints of the warp's secret geometries. The prisoners are denied names, denied identity, until they are nothing more than raw material resources, to be harvested in the Emperor's defense. Though no priest would ever call it holy, what is done to them varies. Some are milked for their visions, forced to stare into the immaterium until their eyes bleed and their sanity peels away like old parchment. Others are bound to arrays of machinery, their psychic resonance converted into power for instruments of detection or wards against intrusion. There are stories of Psykers whose very thoughts were drained like promethium, stored in crystal matrices, and unleashed when an inquisitor demanded a weapon that no forge could craft. Rumors claim that entire vaults hum with the residue of stolen minds, a chorus of silent screams embedded into the stone itself. To survive here is not to live. The prisoners are neither wholly alive nor entirely dead, lingering on the threshold between existence and oblivion. Their bodies wither as sustenance is administered only in doses sufficient to prolong their degradation. Their souls fray as chains of sigil and hex gnaw constantly at their essence. Some are reduced to half corpses, twitching remnants whose skulls are shaven clean and whose eyes stare sightless into the dark. Their minds remain tethered, accessible at the whim of an interrogator's touch, yet no will of their own persists. They are libraries of torment, shelves of agony catalogued for later use. Among the Inquisition, debate has always lingered as to whether this practice is necessary or damnable. To some, it is the logical extension of the Emperor's war. Every weapon must be forged, every resource bled dry. If a Psyker cannot serve as a sanctioned battle seer or astropath, then let their mind serve another way. Let their soul be stripped until the husk is empty. Others whisper that such vaults come perilously close to heresy, for in their hunger for knowledge they mimic the very predations of the warp. What separates a demonic harvest from this? Only the banners of the Imperium draped over the doors, and the prayers muttered half-heartedly by the jailers. But rumor persists, even among the faithful, that some of these vaults are not abandoned when the Psykers within expire. Instead, their corpses are left tethered, their psychic residue slowly fermenting into strange echoes. Acolytes speak of vaults, where voices whisper through the stone, urging the living to madness. Some claim that an inquisitor, too deeply invested in such secrets, can vanish into obsession, spending entire decades in dialogue with the dead whose lips no longer move. And sometimes, when the wards fail, or the hunger of the warp gnaws too deep, whole vaults must be purged, their walls melted in sanctified flame, while the screams of the bound echo through. Sealed blast doors. For those Psykers consigned to this fate, hope is not merely absent, it is impossible. Death would be a mercy, but death is not given. Even madness is weaponized, twisted into a tool to be recorded and dissected. To imagine the end of such existence is to imagine silence. Yet silence is denied as long as a single spark of power can be wrung from their suffering. In this way, their lives become darker than the pyres above, for flame consumes swiftly while shadow devours forever. One wonders, in whispers that dare not reach a priest's ear, whether those who burn scream less than those who linger unseen. And yet, despite the secrecy, the existence of these vaults serves a purpose within the grand machinery of the Imperium. From their depths, intelligence leaks upward, scraps of prophecy, fragments of demonic names, hints of threats that otherwise would strike unseen. It is knowledge paid in lives, extracted from those already condemned. Whether it saves worlds or merely postpones their ruin is a question no one dares to ask. What matters is that the machine turns, and the vaults below continue to feed it. To speak of these places is to court suspicion. No citizen is permitted to know of them, no guardsman to glimpse their halls. Even among the Adeptus Terra, only the highest sanctioned scribes are allowed to record their data. They are a secret, hidden beneath the greater secret of Psyker condemnation, a shadow beneath the pyres. And in that shadow, the condemned linger neither martyred nor remembered, but endlessly consumed. Their fate is not etched in monuments or hymns. It is erased, buried, chained in silence beneath the foundations of the Imperium itself. Thus the vaults endure, unmarked on any map, unspoken in any sermon, yet ever present in the architecture of fear. To those who believe, they are simply a rumor meant to frighten children. To those who have seen, they are nightmares that will never fade. And to those who dwell within, suspended between life and death, they are eternity. If the pyres are redemption, then these vaults are the opposite, a darkness without end, a sentence without absolution, a captivity where even the soul itself is denied escape. Perhaps it is worse than death, perhaps it is worse than hell, but it is real, and it is waiting for those whose gifts fail the gaze of the Inquisition. They say that the darkest truths of the Imperium are never written, only whispered. Whispers do not leave ink upon parchment or data upon a slate. They travel in breath, in stammered prayers, in muttered fragments traded between penitents who scrub blood from the stones of fortress cells. And among those whispers, none chills the marrow more than the tale of the soul grinder. It is never named in sermons, never acknowledged by the Inquisition's decrees, and yet the rumor persists as stubbornly as mold in damp walls. The idea that Psykers, those already condemned by their gift, may be fed not into fire or chain but into a machine that devours the very spark of their souls and bleeds it in two. Conduits of iron and glass. The story begins with echoes, voices that are not voices. Guards who stand too long in the lower vaults sometimes return hollow-eyed, claiming to hear cries rising through the vents, though no prisoner is recorded in those sealed chambers. The echoes resemble screams, but stretched, distorted, as though carried not by air, but by current. Some speak of dripping conduits that weep with condensation, only for the droplets to hiss when they strike the stone, as if some unseen fire courses through them. The smell, they say, is of copper and incense burned too long holy, but corrupted by the tang of blood. These guards rarely last. Most vanish into reassignment, or are never spoken of again. No one has seen the soul grinder, or at least none who live dare admit it, but imagination sculpts its shape in dreadful detail. It is envisioned as a colossal engine of black adamant, studded with sigils carved by hands that never trembled. Its bulk sunk into caverns deep beneath Fortress Mon. At its heart, they say, is a maw of glass and steel, into which Psykers are fed one by one. Their bodies wither almost instantly, collapsing into husks, but their souls bright, dangerous, blazing with the warp's unwanted firer, torn free and sucked into coils that glow like molten veins. The energy is siphoned, harnessed, and directed wherever the Inquisition wills. Some insist it is funneled into weapons so terrible that even titans dare not mount them. Others murmur that it powers relics, cursed devices that allow an inquisitor to pierce the veil of the warp or command demons with iron chains of sanctified agony. And the boldest of whispers claims the soul grinder is not one machine but many, spread across Terra and the fortress worlds, a hidden network of siphons gnawing at the marrow of humanity itself. Whether truth or myth, the imagery lingers. One can almost hear the grinding, not of gears, but of voices shredded into raw essence, every scream converted into power. The thought alone is enough to poison sleep. If the pyres are visible, if the vaults are secret, then this is something worse, an abomination that straddles the line between technology and sorcery, sanctioned only by silence. For how could such a machine be anything but heresy, were it not shrouded beneath the banner of the Aquila? The most haunting part of the rumor is not its horror, but its The Imperium has always fed on sacrifice. Soldiers are marched into battle, knowing their deaths purchase only inches of soil. Worlds are abandoned when they can no longer be held, their populations written off as acceptable loss. Entire star systems burn because their ruin ensures another's survival. Is it so unthinkable, then, that Psykers might be ground into fuel? their souls treated as another resource to be measured and spent. In this light, the soul grinder becomes less an aberration and more an inevitability, another cog in the endless machine of human survival. The cruelty of it is matched only by its cold logic, and that logic gnaws at the faithful far more deeply than any demon among penitents. Stories of the soul grinder take on the quality of a litany, a whispered parable. They describe psychers shackled upon conveyor chains, their faces locked in silent screams as their essences bled into conduits that drip glowing ichor. They imagine the moment of soul tearing, not as violence, but as a slow unraveling. Threads of light pulled from a tapestry until nothing remains but an empty husk. Some penitents even claim to have seen the results, weapons that hum with voices, relics that drip faintly with ectoplasm, inquisitorial staves whose runes flicker like trapped eyes. Whether these claims are delusion or secret truth matters little, for once the rumor is spoken, it cannot be unheard. Others reject the idea, insisting it is no more than heresy spun by broken minds. They argue that the emperor would never permit such blasphemy, that the Inquisition, stern though it may be, still serves only his will. Yet their protests often ring hollow, for the Imperium has long since blurred the line between faith and necessity. When the God Emperor himself sits upon the golden throne, consuming the souls of 1,000 Psykers each day to keep the Astronomicon burning, what greater machinery of devouring is there? If his very survival requires sacrifice on a scale incomprehensible, then the soul grinder becomes merely a smaller echo, a shadow cast by the light of his throne, and in that echo, it is not impossible to believe. Those who cling to faith try to sanctify the image, reshaping it into ritual. They speak of the soul grinder as an altar, where psychers are not destroyed, but offered, their essence refined into a purer hymn that strengthens the emperor's hand. Their screams are not screams, but prayers stretched into eternity, transmuted into weapons of his wrath. Yet beneath these pious reimaginings lies the same dread, whether sacred or profane. The psyker is consumed, and there is no salvation in the grinding of souls. It is said that even the Adeptus Mechanicus dare not claim stewardship of such devices, for they lie beyond any Forge World's creed. If they exist, they are tended by hybrids of priest and jailer, half techprius, half interrogator, their flesh laced with wards as they oversee the endless feeding of the machine. No rites of the Omnissiah are spoken here, no canticles of maintenance, only grim silence and the distant hum of something that was never meant to be built. To gaze upon it is to invite madness. To serve it is to forfeit one's humanity. And yet, should it exist, someone must tend it still. Ultimately, the soul grinder remains what it has always been, a whisper, a rumor carried in trembling voices, passed along dark corridors, repeated in the sobbing prayers of those who fear they may one day be fed into its maw. It cannot be confirmed, nor can it be denied. Its horror lies not in certainty, but in possibility. In an Imperium where every cruelty has precedent, every horror a ritual, every nightmare a litany, the idea of the soul grinder does not feel impossible. It feels inevitable. And so the whispers endure, louder than denial, softer than truth. When a psyker closes their eyes and dreams of their fate, they do not always see pyres or chains. Sometimes, in the silent dark of their cell, they hear the grinding of unseen gears, and they wake with the taste of copper upon their tongue. Whether this is vision, nightmare, or the faint echo of something real, none can say. Only the Inquisition knows for certain. And the Inquisition never speaks to speak of the psyker's fate, only as cruelty is to miss. The deeper wound that runs through the Imperium, cruelty is obvious in the chains, in the pyres, in the silent vaults, where prisoners rot in darkness. Cruelty is in the bolt pistol raised without hesitation, in the flames that lick away flesh until nothing remains but ash and smoke. These things are visible, tangible, undeniable. But beneath all of it lies something heavier than cruelty, something far harder to name: necessity. It is this word, whispered like a prayer and wielded like a weapon, that justifies the endless procession of Psykers to their deaths. Without them, the Imperium itself would fall into silence, and silence in the void is nothing but death. The Astronomicon burns brightly, a beacon that pierces through the roiling sea of the warp, guiding ships across a galaxy so vast no mind can hold it whole. It burns because 1,000 Psykers are fed to it each day, their souls consumed upon the golden throne of Terra, their essence transmuted into a light no darkness can extinguish. This is no rumor, no whispered tale, like the vaults or the soul grinder. This is truth, etched into the marrow of the Imperium, proclaimed from the pulpits of the ecclesiarchy, and carved into the stone of cathedrals. Every man, woman, and child who kneels in prayer owes their breath to Psykers they will never see. Psykers whose screams echo unheard beneath the weight of holy machinery. This reality is the paradox of the Imperium. The Psyker is feared, despised, shackled, condemned as a mutant whose gift endangers every world they touch. Yet the Psyker is also indispensable, the sacrifice without which the Emperor's will could not stretch across the stars. Humanity's survival is built on their annihilation, their destruction made sacrament. They are both curse and salvation, vessels of damnation who ensure that billions of others may live. To the common man, this truth is unbearable, so it is buried beneath hymns and liturgies, reframed not as cruelty but as holy offering. To the Psyker who knows it, there is no solace at all. Some ask if this is truly the Emperor's will, or merely the desperate invention of men clinging to power in his name. But such questions are treasonous, and even to whisper them is to risk execution. The Emperor sits upon his golden throne, silent, immobile, his voice unheard by mortals for 10,000 years. His survival, his presence, is unquestionable, for the beacon still burns. Yet whether he commands the devouring of Psykers, or merely endures, it remains unknown. And so the sacrifice continues, because it must. The Imperium cannot risk the experiment of mercy. It cannot spare even one soul from the pyres, for to falter is to invite collapse. But this is where philosophy carves its cruelest wound. If the Emperor is humanity's salvation, and if his will requires the annihilation of thousands daily, then what does salvation mean? Is it survival at any cost? Is it the preservation of the species, even as the individuals who comprise it are ground into dust? If the Psyker's curse is their birthright, then is their obliteration their destiny, their reason for existing? To frame it so is to strip them of all humanity, to redefine them not as people but as fuel. And yet, within the cathedral minds of Terra, this is precisely what has been done. The Psyker is no longer human. They are offering resource, foundation stone. For those who endure the path to sanction, who survive the black ships and the trials upon Terra, the burden of this knowledge is perhaps even heavier. They know that their survival is not a gift, but a reprieve. They live only because others died in their place. They march to war as sanctioned Psykers, astropaths, diviners. Their every act shadowed by the memory of the 1,000 whose lives guttered to light the beacon of the Astronomicon. To them, service is not only duty, it is penance. Every vision wrested from the warp, every transmission that burns their minds hollow, is part of the same endless sacrifice. Their lives are not their own. They were bought with screams and blood, and they will be paid back until nothing remains. Among the scholars of the debates occasionally surface in hidden chambers, debates that never see the light of day. Can such sacrifice be considered moral, even under the Emperor's light? Can humanity truly claim to be righteous when it survives by the destruction of its own children? Yet these debates end always the same way, drowned beneath necessity. Without Psykers, there is no Imperium. Without the Imperium, there is only the warp, the claws of demons, the jaws of Xenos. The morality of sacrifice dissolves beneath the weight of extinction. And so the philosophers bow their heads, their words erased, their questions buried beneath another hymn. Still, the Psykers' fate lingers as a mirror in which the Imperium may see itself, though it dares not look. A civilization that demands the annihilation of its own for survival has already admitted that survival alone is all that matters. The dream of a golden future, of mankind ascendant and untouchable, has rotted into the simple will to endure another day. Every pyre, every chain, every soul drained into the Astronomicon is a reminder that the Imperium is not thriving. It is enduring, clinging to existence by nails and teeth, propped up by sacrifice so great that it swallows individuality whole. And yet, perhaps there is a kind of beauty in this horror. The Psyker, condemned from birth, becomes the ultimate martyr. Their destruction sustains billions who will never know their name. Their pain becomes the shield against the abyss. In this way, their lives so short, so fraught with fear achieve a magnitude no common life can reach. They are the pillars that hold the galaxy aloft, their agony transformed into light. Some priests even claim this is the Emperor's greatest lesson, that salvation requires annihilation, that to serve truly is to give everything, even the soul itself. Whether these words bring comfort or only deepen the wound depends on who hears them. In the end, the weight of sacrifice crushes all beneath it. The Psyker bears it in chains and fire. The common citizen bears it in ignorance, praying with blind eyes while the machine devours. The Inquisitor bears it in silence, knowing what must be done and ordering it without hesitation. And the Emperor bears it, most of all, entombed upon his throne, drinking the essence of 1,000 Psykers daily, just to keep his children alive another dawn. If there is cruelty, it is universal. If there is salvation, it is stained with blood. Thus, the fate of the Psyker is neither holy damnation nor holy redemption. It is both at once, a paradox that defines the Imperium itself. To live in such an empire is to accept that survival demands horrors too vast to comprehend, and to trust that in the Emperor's name, such horrors are sanctified. But deep in the marrow, beneath the hymns and the faith, the question still lingers. Is humanity preserved by this sacrifice, or is it slowly devoured by it? The silence begins where the fire ends, where pyres have consumed flesh and vaults have devoured thought. Only the void remains. The plazas of Terra are cleansed of smoke, the streets scrubbed of ash. The records, meticulously updated to remove any trace of the condemned. A city of billions continues its ceaseless motion, yet the echoes of the Psykers' passing hang in the stones, clinging to the shadows as if they might yet be recalled. No psalms are sung for them. No bells toll. Their names vanish, erased from memory, like footprints in the sands of a dead world. And it is this absence, more than any scream or flame, that bears the weight of the Imperium's machinery. For those who survive, the silence is not empty, but pregnant. The sanctioned Psyker walks the corridors of the fortress monastery, chains of expectation heavier than iron, carrying knowledge that others cannot imagine. They have seen the pyres, witnessed the vaults, heard whispers of the soul grinder, glimpsed the raw necessity of sacrifice. And yet, to speak of it is impossible. The Inquisition's gaze falls without mercy, and even the hint of dissent invites observation, interrogation, and erasure. So the survivors speak not, they pray not aloud. They exist not for themselves, but for the machinery that must continue. Unbroken, because the galaxy's survival depends upon it. Their footsteps echo in empty halls, each one a reminder that life is a debt constantly collected by fire and silence. Silence is also the inheritance of those who fail and yet are spared death. Servitors, hulks of flesh and wire, shuffle in the lower levels of fortress monasteries, their eyes empty of all recognition. Within these bodies, echoes of psychic fire remain, bound and harnessed for purposes that the living cannot fathom. They carry out commands mechanically, their every motion dictated by the will of masters they neither see nor remember. No prayer reaches them. No comfort touches them. They are instruments. The husks of individuals whose essence was claimed not by flame but by chains and the cold rationale of survival. In this way, the Imperium perpetuates itself, using the dead and the barely alive alike. A galaxy sustained not by hope, but by the subtraction of identity. Even the fires themselves leave behind only a hollow legacy. The ash of pyres is swept into pits or carried away on the wind, leaving nothing tangible for the observer to grasp. Those who watch are meant to learn, to internalize the lessons of obedience and fear. Yet they are confronted with emptiness at the core. The horror is not in witnessing the flames, but in realizing that the world moves forward, unchanged, indifferent to the individuals who fueled its continuity. The cost of survival is abstract, spread across billions of minds and lives until it becomes incomprehensible, yet omnipresent, felt in the tightening of a chain, the flicker of a torch, the unspoken rule that power demands obedience and the wrong kind of gift cannot be tolerated. The silence is also philosophical, a reflection of the Imperium itself. If survival requires the annihilation of countless Psykers, if salvation is built upon the foundations of suffering, then the galaxy's continuity is inseparable from cruelty. There is no triumph in this, only endurance. The Emperor's will, manifested through the Astronomicon, and the ceaseless operation of the Inquisition, is absolute. The universe does not pause to question whether the cost is just. It does not comfort the condemned. It does not mourn the lost. The Psyker's life, brief and flaring, is consumed and replaced with the next spark, the next conduit of fire to bridge the void. The silence is the echo of this truth, a quiet horror that follows those who survive every moment of their existence. And yet, within this silence, there is memory. The survivors carry it, embedded deep within the mind and spirit. They recall screams muted by flame, visions of vaults beneath the foundations of Terra, whispers of machines that grind souls. They feel the psychic residue of those who have been consumed, a lingering vibration in the warp that marks them as both witness and participant. These memories cannot be shared openly, yet they shape every decision, every glance, every whisper of thought. The Imperium thrives on obedience, but the Psyker's experience becomes a secret knowledge, a hidden covenant between those who endure envy void that seeks to claim them. The silence also permits reflection, an opportunity to weigh the meaning of sacrifice against survival. To exist in this galaxy is to be constantly reminded that life is provisional, that power is inseparable from responsibility, and that every gift carries the shadow of destruction. The Psyker understands that the pyres, the vaults, the soul grinder, whether reality or rumor, part of the same continuum. The Imperium demands absolutes, and absolutes require cost. There is no redemption without suffering, no protection without elimination, no light without the swallowing of darkness. And so they walk forward, carrying the weight of countless others who have been consumed, each step echoing in the silence that remains. Even those outside the walls sense it. Citizens who glance at a procession of sanctioned Psykers, who feel the presence of Arbites or hear distant bells toll, sense the absence. They do not know names, faces, or fates, but they feel the weight of what is sacrificed for their continued existence. The Imperium has structured itself around this void, training generations to acknowledge power only through obedience and survival only through submission. Every act of compliance, every whispered prayer, every eye averted, is a testament to the cost embedded in the silence. It is a cost that no one can fully measure, yet all feel. The ultimate truth, then, is quiet and unrelenting. The pyres consume, the vaults confine, the soul machines, if they exist, devour, yet the galaxy persists. Survival, not triumph, is the measure of all actions. The Psyker's life, whether flaring brightly for an instant or extinguished slowly in chains and machine, is both instrument and warning. Their gift, their curse, is necessary. Their destruction, whether visible or secret, sustains billions who will never know them. The silence that remains is the Imperium's testimony, more eloquent than any sermon. The cost of existence is absolute, and those who fail leave behind nothing but an absence that cannot be filled. At the edge of the world, on the threshold of memory and oblivion, the Psyker who has survived pauses to consider the enormity of it. Faces burned into memory, names whispered in the mind, the distant tolling of bells echoing in stone corridors. These are the ghosts that accompany every thought, the knowledge of what has been consumed and what may yet be demanded. Shapes every breath, every decision, every thought of loyalty or fear. And though the galaxy around them rages with war, devotion, and ceaseless labor, it is the silence of the pyres, the silence of the vaults, the silence of the unrecorded screams that dominates. No anthem, no eulogy, no record preserves the fallen. The Psyker who fails leaves behind no legacy. Their life, once flaring with the promise or danger of the warp, is reduced to ash, chains, or silence. What remains is the galaxy itself, vast, relentless, and indifferent. It is a galaxy that cannot allow them to exist, yet it relies upon them, feeding upon their destruction, shaping itself through their absence. This paradox, the necessity and annihilation entwined, is the weight that the Psyker carries, the burden that none may share. And it is here, in this quiet reflection, that the final truth asserts itself. Survival is never triumph. Life is never free. The silence that remains is absolute. In the stillness of Terra's cathedrals, in the corridors of fortress monasteries, in the hidden vaults and among the ashes of the pyres, this silence endures. It is not merely absence. It is a presence, a reminder, a warning. Those who survive carry it, and those who are consumed leave only its echo. Across the stars, in every corner of the Imperium, the same quiet rule applies. The galaxy demands payment, and it will not relent. In this silence, there is no closure, no justice, no consolation. Only the unbroken rhythm of sacrifice and necessity, an eternal testament to the cost of existence in the 41st millennium. And so it ends, not with victory or loss, but with the hush of what remains. The pyres have burned, the vaults have silenced, the whispered machines have done their work, and still the galaxy spins. The Psyker who survives is burdened, the one who fails is forgotten, and the Emperor, upon his golden throne, remains silent. In that silence, the weight of countless souls is measured, not in names or deeds, but in the emptiness they leave behind. The silence that remains is the final arbiter, impartial and absolute. It waits, as it always has, and it waits still.